Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to EvidenceNetwork.ca's webinar, Twitter for Beginners. My name is Ayatum Naina, and I'll be co-presenting today's webinar with Kamala Tapp. So the first half will be presented by myself, and then we will switch over to Kamala, who will take it through to the end. So let's get started. What is Twitter is usually the first question that one asks themselves when they think about something new, especially when it comes to social media and technology. So Twitter, according to Wikipedia, Twitter is an online social networking and microblogging service where users can send and read text-based messages of up to 140 characters, which are called tweets. Founded in 2006, there are currently over 200 million users worldwide. 3% of all users are actually Canadians. Another important statistic to keep in mind, especially for EvidenceNetwork.ca, is that 55% of all journalists internationally use Twitter. So it is actually a really useful medium to keep in touch with this audience. And an interesting news item that occurred most recently on June 15th of this year was that Prime Minister Stephen Harper broke the news of his new cabinet shuffle through Twitter first. So it is becoming increasingly important in today's society. Ultimately, Twitter breaks barriers between people, academics, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and public figures. So it is quite interesting what Twitter brings to the forefront. The second most pertinent question that comes to mind is, why should I use Twitter? Ultimately, it's quite easy and fast. You can sync it to your phone and your laptop and your iPad, so it makes for easy access wherever you are. It allows you to network with other health professionals and researchers in your profession, and basically just widen your range of reach. It allows you to keep up with all the latest publications, events, and articles because everything is so easy to share. And it allows you to, in turn, share your work with other people, and in some cases, reach a wider audience. And again, it's really important to remember that both politicians and media have such a heavy presence on Twitter that it makes it a very attractive social media tool to potentially test out, because you would be reaching that audience that you do want to influence. You do want your evidence-based op-eds to reach this audience to kind of change policy down the line, if that should be your goal. So getting your account set up on Twitter, it only takes a matter of minutes. You would need an email account, and that's going to be where you would get all your notifications and how you would verify your identity in case you do lose your account details. And you do want to link it up to an email you use fairly often. If you're worried about getting so many new messages in your inbox, you can always filter anything coming from Twitter into another folder so that it's not really crowding your inbox. So it's nothing to worry about. When you first sign up, you would use your email, you would select a username, which is how you're going to be appearing on Twitter. That's how people could find you. And then you could go ahead and customize a profile for yourself, which you want to include your full name, a description of who you are, or your profession, or the organization that you're affiliated with. Your location is useful to include so people know where you are, a website link, and a profile picture of yourself or your organization, and then you could further customize it with a cover photo that I'll be showing you, and then a background theme if you like. But it's pretty straightforward. It only takes a few minutes, and I'm actually going to create an account while I'm here with you guys. So basically the link is here, twitter.com/sign up. So I've got it set up here already. So I'm going to switch screens and go to the Twitter page. If you go to twitter.com, you can also find it with this yellow button, sign up for Twitter. So it takes you to the sign up page. I'm going to type in my full name and then the email address, which I've actually just created for this purpose. Okay, and then obviously my password and then my username. I'm going to go with the suggestions they have. Actually, no, I'll just go with my name. And I see it says invalid username because I used a space. So you want to reduce any of that. It's just one one word. You want to keep it fairly simple and easy to identify. You could put maybe your first initial of your name followed by your last name, or your last name followed by your initial, or however you want to break it down. It could even be a nickname. It really doesn't matter. And then I'm just going to click create my account. And why is it giving me invalid username? So I'm just going to go with what they've suggested here because it could be giving me an error because I actually already have a Twitter account of my own. So okay, so this is my username, and then now I'm going to create my account. So as soon as you log in, Twitter takes you kind of through a few step process, and it promises to take only 60 seconds. So they want to get you kind of accustomed to it, and they want to get you starting to use the features already. So get started in less than 60 seconds. I'm going to click next, and we're going to kind of jump into what Twitter is about right away. It's suggesting that I build my timeline, which is right here, which kind of shows me updates of who's using who's on Twitter right now and what they're saying. So this is going to show up here, and it says start by following 5. So when you follow people on Twitter, it means that you essentially subscribe to their content that they're publishing on Twitter. So I'm going to follow the first 5 just to kind of keep this going, but they suggest to you a bunch of different accounts. As you can see, these are very popular public figures. I'm pretty sure Justin Bieber has the most following on all of Twitter, and he makes up for a few million users, if not quite a few more, on Twitter, or a few million users follow his account. So I'm going to follow him. I'm going to follow the Beatles here, and Taylor Swift, and Oprah Winfrey. I don't know who Nicole Polizzi is, but let's just go with Emma Watson. So look, it says great, you followed 5. So now you can go on to the next step. And unfortunately, Twitter does this sometime, and it seems to have run into an error, and it's saying that something is technically wrong. So this is an icon that you'll be very familiar with with your usage of Twitter. Sometimes this happens when they have an overload of people on Twitter. I'm just going to try refreshing. Another very common icon you'll see is the whale, which it's just a diagram, and it just says that there's been an overload of users online. So okay, so we've skipped that the rest of the setup because it's been interrupted. So it will actually just take you through a few more steps to get you to follow more people and to get you to kind of become more familiar with it. So you haven't missed anything since I've kind of skipped it. And if you also want to skip it, you would just kind of go to refresh the page, and it'll take you to your main page, which is right here. You can see that it's asking me to confirm my email address. This is pretty standard when you sign up for anything new, and you would find a welcome email from Twitter in your inbox. You definitely want to open that and click confirm so that your account is active and live. Okay, so sorry about the error there, but if you were to run into that, always refresh, and sometimes it tells you to come back in a few minutes. I think it's just because of the sheer volume of users on Twitter, and it doesn't usually last more than a few seconds, as you saw. Okay, so this is the main page. When you log in, and I'm going to actually demonstrate me logging in for you so that we can all start together. So I have an account, so I'm going to sign in, and my username was my last name and followed by my first name. I'm going to put in my password, and then I'm going to sign in. And so when you first sign in, or not when you return back to Twitter, this is the main page that you'll be faced with. I'm going to go over the different parts of it, and then we'll go over it in further detail back in the PowerPoint presentation. So from a first glance, this is as complicated as it gets. So in fact, it's quite simple. You can ignore this notice. It'll go away as soon as I open my email and confirm, which you should do as well. You can see that there are 4 tabs on the very top. So there's Home, so that's your home page. Connect is where you would see notifications from people trying to connect with you or message you, or respond to your content and give you feedback on what you've tweeted. Discover allows you to find, new popular and current content that people are sharing on Twitter. It's kind of tailored to you and your interests. So what's really interesting about Twitter is that it will only show you things that you have kind of showed interest in, either through people you follow and people who follow you, and also through the stuff that you share. So it really does hone in on what your interests are. So that Discover page, you can find pretty interesting stuff there sometimes. And then the Me tab, which is where your profile is located, and a history of all of the content or tweets that you've shared from the very beginning of your usage. So it's kind of like a timeline of all your stuff, specifically your content that you've shared with other users. And then on the the right-hand corner here, you can see the kind of the settings icon. Is a drop-down menu and allows you to look at your what we call direct messages. So it's kind of like a private inbox where people can send you messages, lists, which you can create if you had like a certain topic, like healthcare policy, and you wanted to organize all the different users on Twitter that you follow for this specific topic. You can make a list, and it's just for your records. You can't really do much with it except make it easily accessible to you when you want to look for those people. And then there's help, keyboard shortcuts if you're interested, and then settings that allows you to change, the email it's linked to or your username, any other details you want, as well as kind of the customization of your profile can be found there. And then obviously sign out. This blue box is really useful if you just know that you want to tweet something right away. You can click that and a box will pop out, and this is where the magic happens on Twitter. And you have, as you can see here, 140 characters that you will use to type out what it is that you want to share. And then as soon as I start typing, you can see the blue button here was highlighted, and then I can click tweet. So I'm just going to do that for practice sake. So basically, hello, this is my first tweet. And then it could be as simple as that. Basically, you're introducing yourself to Twitter users, and that's reached all of the people that are following me, which has all of a sudden reached 3. I don't know how, but 5 minutes on Twitter and I've already got 3 people following my timeline. So I'm going to just go through the different tabs and briefly introduce you to what's available in each tab, and then we can go back to the PowerPoint. So here, this is the exact same Twitter box that I showed you here in the blue icon. You can type in what you want to say or what you want to share, and then click tweet. These 3 numbers here are basically your statistics for your page. This is how many tweets I've sent out, total of 1. This is how many people I've chosen to subscribe to, 5 following. This is how many people have chosen to subscribe to me, 3 followers. And then this is my name, and then here you can go to your profile page, which is exactly this tab here. Okay, so on the right-hand side are all the tweets of what I've currently sent out, so the most recent 1 minute ago, and then all the people who I have followed in all their content. So Oprah Winfrey tweeted 15 hours ago, and that happens to be the most recent activity from the 5 followers that I have. Usually Twitter is a multitude of content, and it's usually quite current depending on who you're following and who's awake and what time zone it is. But it's the most current list of all the content sent out by people that you follow. So if I scroll down, I can see, Justin Bieber tweeted 22 hours ago, Taylor Swift, and this changes with the different people that you've followed. My personal account on Twitter, my normal one, other than this demo account, has a lot of stuff on Canadian healthcare, international politics, journalists. I follow quite a few journalists, so it's quite tailored to my interests, and that's all through people who I follow. So you don't have to consciously do anything to basically choose how you want your Twitter timeline to look like. Sorry, this is a Twitter feed to look like. It's just depending on who you follow and don't follow, and then Twitter kind of changes things accordingly. This box is pretty much always here on the left-hand side, and it's Twitter trying to get you to follow new users and different accounts. So you can always actually look into this. You can refresh, and then a new list will come up for you. You can view all the different suggestions Twitter has for you. You can look at popular accounts, and then you can click on Find Friends, which also can let you sign into different email accounts or other social media tools, and then find friends that you have through those accounts and tools that already have Twitter, that you can find that way and follow them through that tool. So it's kind of useful if you want to check your mailing list that you have saved on your Gmail account, and you want to see from that mailing list who's got Twitter and who can I follow from that list. So it is quite useful to do probably as soon as you sign up if you're interested, or you could do it down the line. It doesn't matter. This box is also always here on the left-hand side, and what it is called is trends. And trending on Twitter is when a lot of people around the world are talking about a specific topic. So it usually lists them. You can do it by region, or you can keep it by default, I think, is international. So this is what people are talking about all around the world. And sometimes it's quite interesting to look at. So when breaking news happens, when there's a specific topic that is really current and everyone seems to be talking about it, you'll see that here. It's quite interesting, but you don't have to do anything with it. It's just these two boxes are always going to be there for you to look at or ignore. So I'm going to move on to the next tab, which is the Connect tab / interactions. So okay, sorry, I just had to check. I thought Justin Bieber followed me, but it's not real. There's there's a lot of fake accounts on Twitter, and that's why you see things like this icon here. This blue check mark confirms that this account is really who they claim to be. So this is really Paul McCartney's account. This is not Justin Bieber's account, because you don't see that check. And it's not everyone that's got that certification. It's who Twitter finds that it's kind of important to keep track of who's who and to verify what's a real account and what's not. So I'm going to ignore that. But here you can see my interactions are very few, but basically these are 3 different usernames who have decided to follow or subscribe to my account. So I've got 3 new followers. These are my interactions. I can click here, mentions, but you don't have to, because that will automatically show up anyway. Mentions are when people tag you in a tweet. So how they would tag me was they would write @ you can see that here, that's the Connect tab. @ means when somebody wants to kind of direct a specific tweet to you or a specific message to you, they'll precede it with @ followed by your username, and that basically pins that content to you. So that tweet is about you or directed to you, or something that user thinks that you would find interesting. So that would always be found in the mention section, and you don't even have to go to the section. You could just keep it as default, so that when you click connect, it takes you to that page and you would see all of that content. Again, like I said, these are kind of the default boxes that'll always be here, who to follow and trends. So you can choose to look at that or ignore it. I'm going to move on to the Discover tab, which I don't really use often because I usually kind of go on Twitter to check my homepage and to check my interactions, who's mentioned me and who's sent me stuff, and to tweet my stuff, and then I kind of leave. So Discover is when you kind of have some time and are interested in what other people are doing. So as Twitter explains, it's what's happening now, tailored for you. So I don't know how much tailoring Twitter can do when I only follow 5 people, but I think Twitter thinks that I'm really interested in music. Yeah, because most people I've followed are artists. So you can go through the different tabs here and check what they are. This is recent activity that's been going on. So the accounts that I've followed and what they've done. So Oprah Winfrey followed Tracee Ellis Ross. If you're really that interested, it kind of organizes what your followers have been doing. Again, who to follow, find friends and popular accounts, which is exactly this box here, can be found here. So it's just if you are kind of want to see some changes on your timeline and you want to find new stuff, this is a good tab to go to. And the last tab is the Me tab, which is your profile essentially, and kind of all the content pertaining to you and what you've produced. So here is my profile. This is my full name. This is my username. So if people want to tag me or mention me, as the terminology is on Twitter, they would precede my username with the @sign, and then that would tag me in that tweet. So if they were, I'm gonna, I'm testing the mentions feature. So I'm gonna go like this, and I'm gonna mention myself. You can do that. You don't really want to mention yourself, but this is just to test it. And then, so you can see that it's highlighted, and once it's tweeted out there, if people click on this highlighted section, it'll go directly to your profile page. So I'm going to test this mentions feature. I'm going to tweet it. It shows up on my profile because it's content that I've produced. And then I can click here. It shows my profile. And people can click further and go to my main page. So it's like a pop-up window that shows them, what they can do to proceed from here. And then that'll take them to my page, and then they can look at all my content. So here is where my avatar or my profile picture would go. You can customize this background cover photo. You can even customize these clouds here, and then you can do all of that in Edit Profile. Here, where there's a blank space underneath, is where you have 140 characters to describe yourself and include your location and a website. Here's a summary of all my stats, how many tweets I've made, how many people following me, how many followers. And then this mailbox here is where I can get to my direct messages, which I also showed you were available in the settings area. And sorry, just one second. Sorry, I'm back here. And so this is your direct messages icon. You can click that to see who's messaged you. I don't have any messages yet, but as it explains, these are 140 character messages. They're private, and you can send them to any user that follows you on Twitter. You can create a new message and direct it to somebody. I don't really want to because I have 3 followers that I don't know. So I'm going to close this. And essentially, this is where you would go to check to see, oh, I forgot what I tweeted last week. Let me look and let me check my timeline. So that's that. You can look at the accounts that you're following here, and it'll show you all that interesting content. And then how many people are following you. You can also look at that. And then favorites, which is a feature that I'll actually go back to the homepage in a second to show you. And then the list as I was mentioning earlier. So I'm going to go back to the main page and show you favorites, and I'm going to show you retweets, and then I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. So that is basically everything that you can kind of know about Twitter. So after we've gone through that, and I'm pretty sure now you're all basically experts on this, you can just go on and use it to share the content that you want to share and to follow people that you want to follow, and to just, whenever you like, to update it or keep up with other people's work. So basically, I've decided that I want to like, or I want to appreciate one of Oprah Winfrey's tweets. So I'm excited that she's getting ready for the Butler movie red carpet. So when I put my mouse over that tweet, you can see that I've got 4 options here. I can reply to Oprah, so that will let me comment or say what I want to say about this tweet that Oprah has sent out. So that's really cool. And Oprah will actually get it. Whether or not she responds is another story, but it will actually deliver it to her, which means that's quite useful when you follow different personalities or journalists or politicians. You know that they've actually reached or read or received your comments. So here, these are actually other people's comments that have been sent to Oprah. So I can reply, I can retweet, which means that it's going to share this content on my own Twitter timeline. So it means it's going to show in my profile when people see, oh, what's at tweeted recently. I'm going to favorite it because I want to save it for later. And I want to show Oprah that I really like this. And then more, you can actually go ahead and embed the tweet onto, if you are making a post on a website and you want to mention or you want to feature a specific tweet, you can actually embed it into your website and share that content that way. So I'm going to just go back to my Me tab real quick to show you that once I favorite something or retweet something from someone else, it reshares it as though it is, my content. It maintains the user that has originally shared it, but it shows it on your page and it shows it to the users that follow you that you've liked this so much that you've shared it with everyone, and I've also favorited it. So the retweet indication is the green arrows and the favorite is the yellow star. So that's a really detailed overview of everything on Twitter in my demonstration. So I'm going to actually switch to the PowerPoint to go over this on the slides. So basically, we've set up our account on Twitter, and we now just want to take a good look at EvidenceNetwork.ca's Twitter profile. And basically, there's a profile picture, a nice cover photo. This is the full name of EvidenceNetwork.ca. This is the username. @EvidenceNetwork is the Twitter username for EvidenceNetwork.ca. And then there's a nice description. EvidenceNetwork.ca is a comprehensive, nonpartisan online resource designed for journalists covering health policy issues in Canada. So people who happen to come across the profile or want to follow Evidence Network and want to know what it's about, that's where you would put that, and that's kind of where you want to showcase what you're doing and who you are, so that people who might be interested in Canadian health policy would more than likely be like, okay, well, I choose to follow this account because it seems to be what I'm interested in. So it's really important to actually fill out your profile information. Where you're located, Winnipeg, Manitoba, and then a website that is associated with this account, EvidenceNetwork.ca. And I'm actually going to show you how to fill out this profile real quick. This is how many tweets Evidence Network has produced, how many following, and how many followers, and that is basically what the profile looks like. And that's a really good example of how a profile should look on Twitter, because you want to maximize all the different customizations that you have accessible to you, because you want to make it that much more visible to everybody. So if you'll just excuse me, I'm gonna go back to the Twitter screen and I'll show you how to introduce your profile. So as you can see, I've got my username, my email, which I've already set up, but you can, it's not showing it because I haven't confirmed in my inbox. The language I want to use, so you're free to use it in any language you wish, but English is the predominant language on Twitter. I think they only recently started letting you kind of tag things in different languages. Your time zone is not correct, but I'll leave it as this. You can add a location to every tweet you send. So if you travel quite a bit and you want to show your followers that you know where you are and where you're sending things, Twitter will automatically find out, you know, locate you around the world and add that information into the tweet. Tweet media. Media means when you kind of show videos or pictures, Twitter will accommodate for that feature and show kind of like a preview of what you're sharing underneath the tweet. But here, this is about sensitive content. I usually would leave this unchecked because I just don't want to show anything sensitive. Twitter privacy, it's not really a good idea to make your tweets private because it defeats the purpose of making your content more visible and networking with people. If you have a private Twitter account, like I said, it really defeats the purpose. People might want to do that to keep in touch with family and friends, but it doesn't allow you to maximize the features of Twitter. Personalization, here you can check or uncheck whether or not you want Twitter to tailor your content based on your recent activity online. So you might not want that, but it could be quite interesting. Promoted content, you might want to uncheck that because I honestly don't look at any ads on Twitter. You can reset your password, you can verify your login, and this is a really interesting feature, your Twitter archive. If you want a copy of all of the content that you've ever produced on Twitter to be kind of sent to you, which it can only be sent to you, only the user can access an archive of their content. So you can request your archive and Twitter will actually send you access to a, I think it's an HTML file that is all of your tweets from the day that you ever started, which is really, really interesting if you want to see, you know, the different content that you've shared over, you know, the few months or years that you've been using it. And it also lets you kind of pinpoint, you know, what was happening when. It's interesting for those that want to kind of keep track of that. And it's also interesting for statistics because it also maintains, you know, how popular that tweet was, whether or not other people liked it and shared it or favorited it, or how if they commented. So that's interesting. You can also find how to deactivate your account here if you have any reason for wanting to do that, which hopefully you don't. Sorry, I actually wanted to get into the profile and show you how to update your content. So here you can change your photo, you can change your header. I was calling it cover photo, but it's actually header. Your name, your location, so I'm going to put Winnipeg, and your network, or sorry, your website, and then your bio. So you actually have 160 characters instead of 140 characters to talk about yourself. So I'm just going to say research assistant at EvidenceNetwork.ca. You can connect it to your Facebook account if you want. I'm going to skip that, and I'm just going to save this because I want to show you what it looks like on my profile after I've done this, which is similar to Evidence Network. So I'm going to go to my profile page, research assistant at EvidenceNetwork.ca, and I live in Winnipeg. So that's kind of where your profile information goes. And I also just want to show you the search bar. If I wanted to find different people on Twitter, and one of the first accounts I would want to follow is the EvidenceNetwork.ca. So I've searched their name and it came up right away. So I clicked on it, and this is their profile, which is what I've shown you in the slide, and I'm going to follow them. And when I follow different accounts, Twitter might suggest similar accounts I want to follow. So maybe I want to follow the Public Health Agency of Canada. So now I'm really just going to go back to the slides and stay there. But I just wanted to kind of demonstrate all those features for you. So this is the profile that we just saw. It's a good example of a strong profile, and you might want to use it as a template for when you're setting up your account. And then finding people on Twitter is really important when you first set up. Again, you have quite a few ways that you can do it. As I said, once you get set up, Twitter will take you through a bunch of steps to find people. Sometimes it will suggest people like celebrities for you to follow. You have the option of searching your email contacts to see that if anyone you already know has Twitter already. And then you can use a search bar option, which I just showed you, by starting to type up their name or typing up a certain topic, or even a location. If you know that you want to look up health policy in Canada, you could type up those words and the results will show you tweets that have kind of had the same content, or it'll show you people that either have that in their profile or in their username that you might want to follow. So it's really useful. The search bar, you can kind of customize what you're looking at, but initially it'll show you like a series of, you know, how many tweets have had that content in them, or you can specify that you just actually want to see how many people have that, have those kind of tag words in their description or in their username. So like I said, once you find the accounts that you want to keep track of, you'd click the blue button next to their account name, which reads follow. And that's essentially the same thing as when you like something on a Facebook, when you actually like a Facebook page, or when you subscribe to a channel on YouTube. So it's really a good idea to kind of follow a mix of different people, especially if you're a health professional. You want to follow your peers, you want to follow other experts in various fields or in your specific field. You want to follow local journalists or international journalists that might be interested in talking about your topic of research or interested in covering health policy issues. And you want to keep track of politicians. These are kind of the people that you want to ensure are listening to you, are reading your content, and essentially you also want to be able to see what these politicians are up to as well. So, which brings me to the next point. When you follow someone, it doesn't mean that you've endorsed them. It doesn't mean that you've supported them. It doesn't mean that because you follow this politician that you vote for them. It honestly just means that I'm interested in what this person has to say, be it controversial, be it something I agree with, be it something I disagree with. I want to keep track of what they're saying, and it's really useful to do so. And Twitter gives you that freedom. Some people actually put follow does not equal endorsement in their profile page to show that, you know, this is just stuff that they find interesting. It doesn't mean that it's stuff that they swear by. It doesn't mean that it's content that they've confirmed themselves and can say that, yes, this is truth or not. It just means that they're interested in that content. So you have the freedom to also unfollow people on Twitter. So I think I go into that in the next slide, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys were familiar with all of the different features on Twitter. And basically, it comes with practice. Don't feel overwhelmed. And it is rather simple once you get the hang of it. So the next step I'm going to take you through is your first tweet, which we've done quite a few first tweets since the demonstration. And we'll go through the rest of the features that I introduced in the demonstration. So by the end of this presentation, you should be quite comfortable with all the different features, and hopefully you actually try to use Twitter for yourself. So your first tweet, which we actually already sent out, but the kind of key things to remember are that 140 characters is a lot of room to share a lot of information. You can share articles in a tweet, so what you would do is copy and paste the link from whatever website that you have that you would like to share, paste it into the Twitter box. You can add whatever you like to it, an opinion, a quote, where it's from, like the Men's Health magazine we saw. They just had the title of the article followed by the link. You can even share videos, and how you do that is you'd copy and paste the link from YouTube or whatever website is used and put it into your Twitter text box there and send it out. Photos, you have the option of copying a link from somewhere or uploading it from your computer, which you could do really easily by dragging and dropping it into that box, the magic box that we want to really stress that that's basically all you kind of need to focus on when you're creating content to share with people. So we can go ahead and share an article on Twitter, but one of the key things I wanted to kind of suggest that you might want to include in a tweet is the title of the article, so that people can see exactly what it is that you're sharing. You might want to share who the author is if you know them. You might even want to include their username in that tweet. You can take out a strong quote from that article. You can add your spin on it, what you feel about the article, whether or not you agree, disagree, really find it interesting, want everyone to read it. And then kind of like a tagging feature that Twitter has is hashtags, and Kamala will get to that later, but you can also add those hashtags into the tweet. And as I showed you, you would just go to the text box there that allows you to type in the characters, and once you're finished making that tweet, you would simply click the tweet button and it would be shared with all the people that kind of have subscribed to your Twitter feed. Okay, so we're going to just kind of break down all the things that we've gone over in the demonstration. And since we already know what tweets are, a few other terms that we're going to go through are timeline and Twitter feed, followers and following, hashtags, which is also the number sign, the connect tab or the @ sign, retweets, direct messages, favorites, and verified accounts. So I'm going to start off with timeline and Twitter feed. So as I showed you, your timeline is your page. It's a list of all the tweets that you've sent out and all the content that you've shared. So that includes your retweets and the favorites. And that can be found in the Me tab, which is your profile. And it's just a history of everything that you've sent out and shared on Twitter. Your Twitter feed is found on the Home tab, and that's the content that the people that you've subscribed to have shared. And so it's similar to a Facebook newsfeed if you used Facebook, and it's basically all that content that has been shared by people that you follow. Followers and following, as I've said before, followers are people that you choose to subscribe to on Twitter, and everything that they tweet will appear on your Twitter feed. A really good idea to kind of get your Twitter account out there is to make sure that you include your Twitter handle on your website or in your bio if you have that shared somewhere on the internet. Tweet things out, basically generate content. You will definitely gain followers, and then you can always engage other users on Twitter, have conversations, make comments on different things that other people have shared. Following, these are the people that you've chosen to subscribe to and content that you want to keep track of. And as I said before, following does not mean endorsement, and unfollowing is just as easy as following. So sometimes you want to keep track of somebody's account for a given period of time if they're covering a specific event that you're interested in, and you want to just follow them for that day or for that period of time, and then after that you're not really interested in that content anymore, you can just unfollow. And that will kind of change what your Twitter feed looks like. So if that makes you more comfortable, you just don't want to see that content anymore, feel free to use that feature. A common courtesy on Twitter is to, when you get a new follower, you kind of want to show gratitude or respond to that by following them back. Like I said, you can always unfollow later on, but it just kind of like an unspoken rule. And then, like we said, a summary of all the tweets that you've generated and the people that you follow and are following you are all found on the Me tab. The next thing I want to explain is the concept of retweets, and like I showed you with the Men's Health magazine article, retweets are when you would like to share other people's content with your followers. So you can do that in 3 ways. You can click the retweet button on the original tweet like we did. You can do what's called a manual retweet. And a manual retweet is when you copy and paste all that content that that person has shared, including their username, into the Twitter text box. And you would precede it with the abbreviation for retweet, which is RT. And then you would share it with your followers that way. The reason why some people choose to do that is because they want to receive the feedback that their followers have on that particular article. So they want to be kind of included in that conversation. So if people that follow you who see that tweet, like it, or have a comment to make, or retweet it, you will be notified because you've been part of that chain. Another thing that you might want to do when you're sharing other people's content is kind of add your own spin on it or your opinion. So you'd want to use modified tweet. Modified tweet is when you're kind of summarizing someone else's content. So because it's not word for word or character for character in this case, you want to actually acknowledge that with the use of the abbreviation MT. So you'd start off by opening the Twitter box and you'd write MT and then kind of summarize that tweet from that other user, and you can choose to add your comments or a summary of that and then tweet that out. So in this case, you're including the username of that user and you're included in that chain of transmission. So if people do have responses to that content, you'll actually also be included in that conversation. So I'm just going to show you a few screenshots that are examples of retweets. So here we have an original tweet from EvidenceNetwork.ca that I liked from my personal account and I wanted to share it. So what I had done was I would have clicked on retweet here, which would have showed when I put my mouse over this tweet, clicked retweet, and then it would be shared on my own Twitter feed. So EvidenceNetwork.ca, that tweet was retweeted by me and it shows on my Twitter timeline on my profile. So if my friends are looking at my profile, they'll see that, oh, she shared this article from EvidenceNetwork.ca. So that's an automatic retweet because you're just clicking the button. When you're modifying a tweet, you would copy the tweet from before and make the changes that you want. And sometimes it's just omitting a few words or condensing it. So the content has changed a little bit, but you're still maintaining that it is from Evidence Network, what it is, and the link, and you're preceding it with MT, modified tweet. Another example of retweets is the manual retweet. So here, Evidence Network actually wanted to share content from Health Council Canada. So what we did was copied and pasted the entire tweet from Health Council Canada into our own Twitter box and preceded it with RT. So this basically tells everyone that follows Evidence Network, this is Health Council Canada's content that we're sharing with you. And it maintains that it hasn't changed anything. We've kept it as is, but we just want to share it with our followers in case our followers want to have a conversation about this content later. They can respond to us directly. So that's the end of my section. I'm going to turn it over to Kamala now, and then we'll go through the rest of the presentation.
Hello, everyone. I'm in Toronto right now, so we're trying this presenter at a distance, so stick with us through this little transition. So the next thing to really discuss is hashtags. So once you get down retweeting and how to use Twitter basics, you can start to add things like hashtags. It's not necessary in every single tweet, but it's something that's a good add-on. So this really allows you to mark your tweet for a specific topic or event. So you can search specifically by a hashtag. So often if you attend a conference, they'll have a conference or event hashtag that you can use. So let's say you're saying, this is a great keynote presentation, would love to hear more, then you can use the hashtag for that conference, and then anyone from that conference can click on that hashtag and then use it or see it. So it's great if you're attending and are attending a conference and use their hashtag and then search their hashtag to see who else around you is tweeting, what they're saying, what kind of conversations they're having. It also increases the likelihood that your tweet will be read and will be circulated to other people. So it's kind of like a flag to be notified for other people to see. So how to effectively use a hashtag. A hashtag is essentially highlighting a word or a couple words shortened, condensed into one kind of handle that you can include in your tweet. So it's really good to use simple descriptive words or topics that are already being used by other people. So who, what, where, so maybe the conference name, city, that kind of thing is great. So to use the actual hashtag, you add the number sign before the first letter of the word that you wish to highlight. So if you are wanting to use a hashtag, make sure that you don't have any spaces between the words that you want to condense because it's all one word. So if you see here some of the examples that we often use, so Canadian politics, Canadian health, they're all shortened, so it's easier to include in your 140 characters. We also, at the end of this presentation, have a resource list for the most frequently used hashtags for healthcare. So connect and mentions, I showed you this earlier. So the @ symbol or mentions allows you to direct a tweet at a specific person. So this doesn't appear on your followers' feeds, but they can see it if they visit your timelines. So if you go to the Connect tab on your page and click the Connect tab, you can see when people have mentioned you in a tweet. So you can use the @ symbol anywhere else in a tweet so that you can tag someone. So if I'm writing a tweet and I want to tag Evidence Network, I just use the @ symbol and then use Evidence Network, which is their Twitter handle, and I can tag them in a tweet. So this is like tags on Facebook. It's very similar, but it doesn't show up on the other person's Twitter feed. It only shows up on your own. So you can see where people have mentioned you under the interactions in the Connect tab, and it's a great place to see where people have mentioned you, have retweeted your tweets, and have favorited your tweet. So direct messages are something that are not necessary that you absolutely have to use. It's like a private message on Twitter, so it's like a private email or a Facebook message. So only you and the person receiving it can see it, but the key is that you can only send direct messages to people who you follow and who follow you back. So it's key, you can't just send messages to whoever you choose. It has to be someone who follows you and follows you back. So if you saw on the home page, there's a little inbox symbol, and if you have a message waiting for you, there'll be a little round blue dot that will signify that you have a message waiting. So once again, these are limited to 140 characters. You can't write a whole essay as a direct message, but this is a really great opportunity to exchange contact information. So a lot of people don't like to put their email out, especially journalists don't like to put their email on a website now. So you can exchange your contact information through a direct message. And more often than not, you'll see what's called a follow for DM. And this means follow back for a direct message. So if I want to message you and you haven't followed me, I'll say follow for DM. And then that's me requesting you to follow me back so that I can directly message you. So favorites. This is a great way to show when you really like a tweet or you want to save a tweet for later. And it's something that you can do and then other people can do to your tweets as well. So I showed where the favorite button is. And so when you click favorite under a tweet, it's right next to the retweet button. It'll show up as a little star icon that you have saved the tweet or favorited the tweet. And you can access this once again in the Me tab under the left-hand side in the columns, and something that you can definitely save for later. So maybe it's a link that you want to see again or something like that. It's a great way to save things to look at in the future. So verified accounts, if you see the little cloud symbol on the top of the slide with a check mark in it, if you see an account with that next to it, that means it is a verified account. So of course there's a lot of joke or fake accounts circulating, and so verified accounts is a strategy that Twitter has used to make sure that you can identify those that are the real person. So the real Barack Obama, the real Bill Gates, not some joke account. I'm sure you have all seen the joke Prime Minister accounts that we have. So it's good to have this for accounts that you're wanting to tweet. So making sure it's the correct person. It's often used for celebrities, organizations, businesses, government, and it is controlled by Twitter. So there's definitely a use for this, and seeing this, make sure that it's the person you're wanting to contact. So the next thing, once you've learned how to hashtag, retweet, all that kind of stuff, is really making sure that you make tweeting a habit. So there's no excuses. You can access Twitter on your laptop, your mobile device, your iPad, your just about anything. And so you can tweet any time of the day or night. So if it's making it a habit right before you do your emails in the morning, or if you find something interesting in your email, you tweet it right away. You don't save it for later. It's great to get into a habit because your Twitter followers will begin to expect tweets from you and will be interested in what you have to say. And so continually getting out there and saying something is a great way to build your followership or followers as well. So you can use the search bar at the top of your homepage to find tweets on something that you're specifically interested in. For example, if you're interested in American healthcare, you can search that. So that's a great way to discover what is also on Twitter that's not something that you're following. But then you can scroll through your Twitter feed and really find out what your follower or what the people you are following are saying. So seeing what Evidence Network has to say, seeing what IAT has to say is all things that show up on my Twitter feed because those are the people that I'm following. And the other thing you can do is what IAT showed you is the Discover button at the top of the browser. It will show you, latest, most popular tweets that Twitter thinks is relevant to you, what's trending across the world. So different things that you wouldn't typically see in your Twitter feed. And of course, like anything else that you do, you want to make sure that your Twitter is branded to your specific brand. So just like your website, just like your Facebook, just like your office, you want to make sure it's completely branded and represents what you are expressing. So clearly defining the personal versus professional is something that's important. You want to consider at all times that this is the public domain. You can't libel or slander. Yes, you can delete a tweet after you post it, but it's always available in the Twitter verse. Someone may have taken a screenshot of it or something. So saying slanderous things or profanity is not suggested simply due to the public nature. You also want to consider the tone that you use. What kind of values does your organization or your brand represent, and how are you going to uphold that through 140 characters? So knowing what is appropriate and what is not. Something that we suggest is to not engage in debate over Twitter. This has gotten a lot of people in trouble, including celebrities and politicians. So a debate, or as they dub them, Twitter wars, can be damaging to you. Engaging in that kind of discussion is not the type of thing that you want to see on Twitter. So asking some questions, encouraging other people, retweeting other people's things is great. But when it's a heated debate is not the quite right forum for it. So making sure that what you want is reflected in your tweets is ideal. All right, so thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed our presentation. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email us, or both of us have Twitter. So tweet us, follow us. We'd be happy to see you all make accounts. Now we're going to answer a couple of questions. Before we do that, I just want to point you to the next two slides, which you have in your slide deck, which is resources. These resources are great things for new and for people who are wanting to kind of expand their Twitterverse. So there's hashtags for Canadian health topics. There's personal Twitter rules, and there's also a really great study of users from across the world. So kind of seeing where Twitter has really gone. So now we'll open it up. I know there's a couple questions on chat, and so we'll go to questions.
Okay, so we've actually received a few questions so far. Holly Golightly asked, in slide 10, please drag and drop a photo to show us. So I'm just going to go to slide 10. Sorry, guys. Maybe it wasn't slide 10. Essentially, I can show you guys on the Twitter screen what you would do. Unfortunately, I can't show you the folder that I would have, but in the Compose New Tweet box, you have the option of clicking here, and that'll allow you to find the picture that you have on your computer. And like a window will open up when you click this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it if I click, but it'll let you find where you've saved that picture, and then you would click open, and it would attach automatically to the tweet. And what Twitter does is basically upload that picture onto Twitter and provide you with a link for people to see it. And that link is going to be tied to your account. So it does take away from the characters that you have, but that's essentially how you would do it. And dragging and dropping is similar. You would open up the folder where your picture is saved, and say you have the folder and you kind of open it on top of this window. You would click on the picture and hold the mouse clicker down and drag it and drop it into this box. And it'll upload it automatically. Immediately, and then so Twitter uploads it onto Twitter, links it to your account, and it will take up actually a few characters, because Twitter will insert the link of that picture for you. And then you'll have the remainder characters to describe that picture. You can mention people in that tweet, so you want other people to see that picture specifically. You can hashtag it so that other people can see it. So unfortunately, because of the setup with the presentation here, I can't show you how to drag it and drop it, but hopefully that kind of clarified it for you. The next question, I think I'll direct it to Kamala. Michelle Grignon asks, regarding hashtags, what happens if I create a hashtag that is already taken?
Okay, thanks so much. That's a great question. So a hashtag is more of a search term. So the whole point is to have a hashtag that a lot of people are going to use. So for example, if you create a hashtag that says Canadian politics, you can use that, and then anyone else in the Twitterverse can also use that. So the purpose is really to have a general topic that a lot of people can use. It's not about creating an exclusive one or creating your own, but it's creating ones that other people are going to use and that other people have used. So I hope that answers your question.
And on to, just to add to that, sometimes for specific events or conferences, you do want to make a hashtag that is unique and only unique to that event, and people who use that will go directly to the content that people at that conference are attending. So you can, I mean, sometimes people will use abbreviations for the conference followed by the year. That makes it pretty unique. It's really unlikely that other people have used that hashtag. But exactly what Kamala said, that you kind of want to have things that more people will come across. And we have a question again from Michelle Grignon. why are tweets limited to 140 characters and not 100 or 150? We'd have to ask Twitter, but I'm not sure. That's probably a decision that they've made, but we can see that it's pretty optimal. You can share quite a bit of content within those characters, and it probably has to do with the ease of sharing and reading content, and maybe they've done studies to fortify that, but that's kind of my hunch. Did we have any more questions from anyone?
How do you find hashtags on various topics?
How do you find hashtags? I think probably the first approach you'd want to take is just searching that word that you think might be a hashtag in the search bar, and from the results you'll see tweets that have had that word, and sometimes that word has come across in a hashtag, so it'll be highlighted with the number sign before the word, and you can kind of learn about the different hashtags that way. Anything else? Okay, so if nobody has any more questions to add, we'll wrap it up there. But you can feel free to contact Kamala or I through email or through Twitter. That's your challenge, to actually follow us and use hopefully some of the information that you've used today. So thanks to everyone who joined us, and hopefully we'll be maybe meeting up again for future webinars. Thank you.